On this week's episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, a two-time PGA Tour winner joins the show from our Scottsdale store. He dives into his career, including what it was like to play in the majors, plus what it was like playing a Saturday round in the final group with Tiger Woods. So we'll have plenty of more with him, plus Drew and I give you our picks for the first year's major. That and more on this week's episode. Hey golfers, welcome on into another edition of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, and happy Masters Week to all those who celebrate. We got a great show in store for you. Kevin Streelman, a two-time PGA Tour winner, is going to join the show. He spoke with Drew down at our Scottsdale store earlier this month, reflected on all things, including his own career, what it was like to compete against the likes of Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson, plus a pretty cool story on his record-setting performance into one of his tour victories, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Plus, Drew and I will be giving you our picks for the year's first major, so let us know what your picks are coming up, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's get right into the turn. And speaking of Augusta, Bella McCauley, who you heard here the last month talking about, how she grew up in the game of golf, her relationship with her sister and how they're both playing for the Gophers, and then, of course, competing and qualifying for the ANWA. Well, she wrapped it up last week, missing the cut by one stroke. She got off to a rough start, 3 over in her first 4 holes, but then, like Bella always seems to do when her back's against the wall, she starts to find her game and grind away. And she had gotten within 1 stroke and had 3 great looks at birdie on 16, 17, and 18 in the second round, but just missed a few of those to miss the cut by 1. But still, a very, very solid performance in her first appearance at Augusta. And while she didn't get to advance to the final round, she did get to go play at Augusta National the Friday in between the second and third round. So can't wait to catch up with her and hear all about that trip. But she's kind of focusing on the rest of her Big Ten golf season and trying to, win that and get back to NCAAs. But just congratulations to her on incredible achievement, and we'll be continuing to root for her as she, gets ready for the rest of the season. And then speaking of the Masters, like we said, Drew and I will be making our picks. Now we're going to use the formula that the Masters website uses, so we'll be picking, a golfer from each of the 5 categories. We'll be doing a kind of a little snake draft, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And when we get to that point, leave your picks in the comments, and we'll see who comes out on top. And also happening this week at the Masters, Viktor Hovland, Golf WRX reported he's switching from his Ping G425 LST into the all-new Ping G440 LST, going with his Ventus Black Velocore Plus shaft in there. So be interesting to see if he makes that into tournament play. Obviously, looking at the range, looks like he's for sure testing it out. That'd be pretty big news because he's kind of been, very glued to that Ping G425 driver, so we'll see if we see Viktor out there this week with the G440. And then wrapping up the turn here, we go to the Texas Valero Open the week before the Masters. It was Brian Harman coming away with the win. Something about windy conditions just suits Brian Harman's game. Of course, he won the Open last year. And then down at the Texas Valero Open, the wind was gusting. It was tough conditions. Weren't a lot of birdies. It was kind of a, survive the golf course kind of a tournament, and Brian Harman just seems to have that kind of a game. He never overpowers the course. He kind of just plays his game, and it certainly worked. And he's got, kind of a cool what's in the bag here. He's one of those players that really sticks with what works. Starting off with his driver, he goes Titleist TSI2, so that is now 2 generations prior from the GT. And then you get into his fairway woods, even cooler. He goes back to the TS series, going TS2 there. And then we move ahead to his irons, and this is where I think his bag gets, really interesting. His 4 and 5 irons, he's playing a utility iron in both, 4 and a 5 iron there, Titleist U500. And then he has a single Titleist T100, and then goes with the 620 CB's 7 through pitching wedge. And then we get to his wedges, Vokey SM9s and a wedge works. Nothing too crazy there. SM9s are obviously a generation old, but still very popular among tour players' bag. But probably the headliner, a new putter. You saw that Brian Harman kind of likes to stick with clubs that work and that he likes. And, he had played this old TaylorMade putter for a while and actually switched into a new TaylorMade putter. Now, it's not one that's available to us or anything is a prototype, but it is of the Zero Torque rendition. Of course, Zero Torque putters are all the rage right now, both on the PGA Tour, LIV, and just golf in general. So I'll be curious to see if we learn anything more about this putter, but obviously it worked well for Brian Harman. For a guy who doesn't like to switch up his clubs often, he must have seen something he really liked. So big week for him, and he'll be looking to carry that momentum here into Augusta. So we shall see. But now to today's main topic, Mr. Kevin Streelman, a two-time PGA Tour winner. He's competed in the Masters before, not there this year, but competed there several times in several majors. Well, he stopped down at our Scottsdale store for some content and was kind enough to sit down with us for a one-on-one interview, just reflecting, kind of on his career, how he got to the PGA Tour, what it was like, playing against, Tiger Woods, the most dominant golfer of this generation, and just everything, including some, partnerships with Larry Fitzgerald and whatnot. So really good, in-depth, kind of a career-wide look inside Kevin Streelman's career. He sat down with Drew at our Scottsdale store.
Okay, we now welcome on the second Swing Thoughts podcast. A very special guest with us today in the Scottsdale store. It is Kevin Streelman. Kevin is a two-time winner on the PGA Tour. You've really been on tour, basically. I mean, this is a long time. You got a long run going here, Kevin.
Yeah,
so,
I've been blessed.
Thank you for the time today and swinging by. My understanding is you stop in here relatively frequently. So I guess, what is it about coming here that you enjoy?
I'm just a golf nerd at heart, to be honest. I love it. I love finding those little deals. I love finding like a cool putter that reminds me of something in my childhood. Like I'm still searching for this old Odyssey that I basically learned using growing up, and I haven't quite found the right one yet. But I'm a collector as well.
Okay.
I used to, back when I was on the mini tours, before I could actually get like a tour Scotty, I used to go to my buddies and we'd stamp them and we'd kind of weight them to try and get them to look the way or get the cool initials stamped into the putters. So it's always just been in my heart. And honestly, now I have some credit here from just doing business over the years. I'll bring friends in here.
Okay.
I did last week, actually.
Yeah.
And helped him get a new set of irons fit to him and a new driver. He just had some dated stuff. And I just kind of like giving back to friends.
Yeah.
I also just enjoyed shopping and kind of seeing, I was like, oh man, I used to love this 3-wood before it broke, and see if you guys have one. I know like my buddy Adam Schenk, I think bought every G400 Max you guys had. I think he bought 20 of them, and then went to Eastlake, I think that week, that year with one of those drivers. So just kind of cool stories. I love it. It was something me and my dad used to bargain hunt for back in the day, and I still continue today.
Yeah, obviously the store now is a little different than the store was, call it 9 years ago is when our first store down here opened, something like that. But you're right. Like, I think we've also seen too, that it's funny you mentioned that, because we've had like Brandt Snedeker, the Odyssey putter that he's been playing forever. There's only, this is kind of a sanctuary for some of those older models that guys get used to or get comfortable with over the years. And we seem to have, stumbled upon a way to access a lot of those too, just by other players trading them back in. So, well, Kevin, I wanted to start before we dive into your career, as far as, because you've been on tour for 15, 16 years now, going back basically early life, even before playing competitively at Duke, but like, just kind of give me a sense of when you realized like golf was going to be maybe a profession for you. Like, I mean, I know my understanding is you were a caddy at a young age. So like, was it even during that time you're like, okay, this is really cool and I love this game and I want to do it forever?
Well, it's a great question. And growing up in Chicago in the Midwest, golf wasn't something we got to play year round like we do out here in Scottsdale. So I also grew up in the Michael Jordan era, the Bulls era of the late 80s, early 90s. So basketball was everything in the winters. I loved tennis as well. I played a lot of that in the spring. And then golf was something I do with me, mom, and dad during the summers. And my dad actually served in Vietnam on the military base in Germany the year before he served in Vietnam in '69. My mom and him picked up the game on this German military base in 1968 as something to get his mind off of what he was about to do for our country.
Right.
And so ever since then, they fell in love with the game. They tried with my brother and sister. They weren't really into it, but with me, it took. And it was, like I said, we didn't have enough money to join a country club, but we would play twilight rate golf throughout the Chicago suburbs And it's one of those slowly got into competition, slowly got better. It was easy for me I always had good hand-eye coordination, maybe some of it from tennis and maybe just God-given, but it just was always easy for me to hit a golf ball. And I loved competition. I still to this day love competing with somebody and going head-to-head with a field and just kind of seeing what you got. But Dad was really good about just keeping me lined up. You'd have to win on your local level before you could go to the state level.
Gotcha.
And then you'd have to win on the state level before you could go on the national level. And it took years. It took, I was probably 11 or 12 when I did my first IJGA, the Illinois Junior Golf Association tournament. And then was, player of the year by sophomore, junior year and winning those. And then went up to AJGA and had success in those and then got attention from good universities and was able to go to Duke and have a great 4 years there. And same deal, struggled early, started winning my senior year. Mini tours, did awful for a number of years and just stuck with it. And there's many stories along that route. But basically it took me 5 tries at Q School. On my 6th trip, got my tour card when I was 27 years old.
I don't have obviously a firsthand experience of it, but you hear stories and you read things about kind of that mini tour grind and how it, obviously there's a lot of players that don't quote unquote make it out or, make it to that next level. That I imagine, I guess compare the pressure of that, whether it's mini tours or even we can get to Q School as well. Yeah. But compare that pressure to being in contention at a major or a big event on PGA Tour. Is it the same feelings that you feel, or is it
no.
It is different?
No, it's very different because it's your whole livelihood for the entire next year is dependent on how this round or two goes. Okay. And it's hard to describe that to people. Yeah. And because I'd failed for 4 or 5 years, I knew what that meant. Right. Which made it even bigger and more difficult the last time I had it. Yeah. I can't believe I let the tour do this, but the Q School used to be 6 rounds at finals. So I finally got to finals my 6th trip. I was excited because I would have at least some Korn Ferry status. Sure. And but I have a really good 4th and 5th round, and all of a sudden, 6th round starting out, I think I was in 14th place. So if I can stay in that top 25, I have a PGA Tour card. Right. I'm like, holy cow! Skipping Korn Ferry or Nationwide altogether, going straight to the PGA Tour. So that was a very crazy night, but I allowed the tour to send some cameras with me and my fiance at the time, Courtney, my wife now, my caddy, Mikey. We're all staying in this little condo that he had. We ordered out pizza, sat, the cameras were there for all of it. When we woke up the next morning and they followed me to the course, there's a 5-minute video that you could somehow find on YouTube of Streelman final day at Q School. And I actually eagle the first hole's a par 5, I eagle the first hole, par the second, then birdie the third. And after that, the wheels came off. I mean, It was OB, birdie, bogey. I truly had no idea where I was. It ended up being, I think, 5 or 6 birdies, 5 bogeys, an eagle, and a double in the last one shot, even par.
What a round.
14th, just stayed where I was.
What a round.
And got my tour
it's funny you mentioned that. So actually, yesterday, we recorded a separate segment with Kate Smith-Stroh, who's an LPGA Tour player. Mm-hmm. She just got her card and this is her 3rd event, the one out here this week. But she had a similar story where, she had kind of clawed her way into the top 10 going into the final day and had a really good start and was comfortably in position. And I guess the way she put it is, she envisioned herself kind of holding, her LPGA Tour card or she having it. And then things started to kind of unravel for her. She ended up obviously getting the card, but was there a moment where you kind of looked ahead and you were oh yeah, it's probably tough to avoid
human nature.
That.
Yeah, it's totally human nature. It's the experience of being there and failing that allows you to try something different that might actually work. Yeah, because it's so rare that you just are successful initially, whether that's your local level, your club championship, playing for a tour card or playing for a major championship. It's hard to prepare for that next level of pressure and intimidation. And that's why I feel so lucky. What I was able to do in my 3rd event is play with Tiger on Saturday in the last group, because 20 years later, of all these crazy scenarios I've been in, everything has seemed smaller than that day with him at Torrey Pines.
Yeah, so I was going to kind of lead into that now. So you just talked about all the pressure that was at Q School. And then you said your 3rd tour event, or 3rd event as a PGA Tour card holder, basically. You ended up being in the final group. And I remember right, Tiger had like a crazy finish to this round.
Mm-hmm.
A couple eagles on the back nine, he's chipping in or something like that. So, but just talk to me about that experience, about playing in that final group.
Yeah.
Obviously you get all the crowds. I mean, that's probably more people than in person that you've ever played in front of. So, what was that just whole experience like?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal, to be honest. As a rookie, I was an alternate to start the week, so I wasn't even in the field until Wednesday morning. I got tapped on the shoulder and said, someone's back went out, you're in. I'm sorry, it was Thursday morning even. It was Thursday.
Oh, really?
Morning. We race out, me and Mikey, my old caddy, we race out to the 10th tee on the South Course, which is like basically all the way down 18. I mean, we were like sprinting down the field. We make it by a few minutes. I go out and I shoot a 68 or 69 on the South, which is always a great round to shoot under par there. But then on the North, I had a really nice one. I was 65, 66. Yeah. I'm leading this tournament that I wasn't even in, a day before. And I see Tiger's name start going up the leaderboard. I was done early, and we end up tied for the lead in the final group Saturday. I remember Courtney and I don't even know if we went to sleep that night. You're just it's hard to describe. I was 1100th ranked player in the world at that time, and he was number one by, 20 points, just so far ahead of everybody. And we get paired together, and I remember walking off the putting green to the first tee, and it's just faces. It's like tens of thousands of faces, and you look down the first hole, and it is 10, 15 deep people the entire way down the rough line, and it was like, here we go. There's like no hiding. It's just, you got to put a tee in the ground. You got to trust your routine. You got to pick a good target. And you just got to rip it. It might have been the longest drive of my life that I hit.
Really?
I absolutely hammered it down the middle. It was 330, 340, and just off to the races. But I watched him. I shot a 73 or 74. Watched him shoot a 66. Went on to win by 7 or 8, which he did at Torrey, all those years in a row. But shooting, not a great score, but a good solid score for the situation I was in, really told me I belong. And that was really half the battle, especially for rookies on the PGA Tour. Because you see guys you've read about, you see guys that have won big tournaments, and all of a sudden you're teeing up next to them and you're not sure whether you belong. I knew after that day that I belonged, and that was a huge moment for me. And like I said, everything since then, whether it was competing in major championships or having leads in major championships or coming down the stretch at Hartford or Tampa, I had some wins, I had some losses, but everything seemed smaller than that day. So I'm very thankful for that day. That is just a great experience that you can't pay for as a professional athlete to be put into that scenario.
So when you earned your card, did you have a vision of being on tour this long? Because it's been, you've had quite the career, and to have to hold your status as long as you have is pretty remarkable. So
thank you.
Did you envision that? Or you probably were just trying to stay in the moment with it?
You really can only go week to week, which is part of what I love about golf. We mentioned earlier the pressure of Q School versus tournaments. Like when I know I have my rookie, I knew I'd have about 30 starts on the PGA Tour. Like, you have a bad week, you get off the plane at the next stop, it's like, here we go, fresh, ready to go, which is what I love about golf. I couldn't imagine being on, I'm a Chicago sports fan, like the White Sox last year. Everyone knows they had a bad season, but by June or July, like the motivation has to be difficult in a team sport in that scenario. It's amazing in golf. Look at was it Jim Harman? He had missed most of the cuts of the whole year, and then he wins the Wyndham at the end of the year. Like, that's just, I think that is so cool about the game of golf and what it can, the opportunities it can have, it can change your life one week, and it's just 4 rounds of golf, which we can all play 4 good rounds of golf sometimes.
Right.
So that's what I really dig about the tour and what I've been able to do. But to answer your question, I remember sitting in rookie orientation the day after Q School.
Yeah.
Everyone maybe is not feeling the best from celebrating a little bit.
Sure.
But they go into the pension plan and the retirement of the PGA Tour. And basically to become vested, you have to be out there for 5 consecutive years.
Okay.
And to pretty much play full time for 5 years. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I could do that.
Right.
That would be pretty surreal. But to be starting year 18 consecutive out here, I feel thankful. I feel fortunate. I feel I've had great coaches and great decisions that I've made as far as taking care of my body. As I do sit here with a knee injury right now that's kind of got me out for a little bit. But I've been very lucky with injuries for sure. I've been, but I think I've been smart too. I've tried to take good care of myself and not do anything too extreme. And, it is tricky as far as the speed gains people are making now and how they're doing it, which I find extremely cool. I just encourage people to do it healthily.
Right, yeah. There is
do it the right way with some supervision of people who really know what they're doing. Because I had a few things I was trying that I probably shouldn't have, and kind of set me back a little bit. But now my goal is I want to play healthy golf till I'm 60 years old. I really think Champions Tour, if Tiger plays out there with, we'll see what happens with Live guys coming back. But I think that tour could be pretty awesome if
I know.
Tiger plays.
I mean, there's, in my, right, I mean, growing up and watching golf, there's a bunch of big names that, in a few years are going to be kind of would be eligible for that, right? So that would, for me, it'd be very fun just to watch. You and the likes of that also. That'd be really fun. So I wanted to get into your wins. So Tampa Bay, and then obviously the Travelers, which I want to get on kind of that crazy finish in a second. But this is 2013, so this is 5 years after earning your card. I'm sure there was a little bit of like the kind of this over the hump feeling when you did get that win, probably.
Big time. It was 150 starts, maybe 140 starts that I hadn't won. I always start with Puerto Rico the year before. It's an opposite field event. It's a course I've always really enjoyed, to be honest. I've had a few nice weeks there, but I had a 3-shot lead going into Sunday. I was playing awesome. Like, I was playing the best in that field. I went out Sunday and played not to lose. Lagging 20-footers, wedge, you're looking right at a pin, maybe playing it to the smart. Like, I was never close to really making a bogey. Because I was just had such control of the golf ball, but I wasn't being aggressive with it. And I ended up getting lapped and finished like 3rd or 4th. And I was just so angry with myself that I gave that tournament away. I didn't play to win. I played to not lose. And that was a huge learning experience for me. So fast forward to Tampa in 2013, kind of same deal. I'd had a nice start to the year. I was, I was 32 years old. I kind of primed my body and everything. And, have a 1-shot lead going into Sunday at Tampa. But there's almost like this last Tampa tournament, there were 40 people within 4 shots or something. So no one's talking about Streelman getting it done. And I just said, I'm not going to let Puerto Rico happen again. I'm going to go out and play to win. I'm going to play aggressive. And I don't care if I shoot 82 or 62. Like, I'm going to sleep much better tonight, knowing I went out to win. And just go out and have a beautiful bogey-free 4-under round. Birdie both par 3s on the back. Probably 2 of the best shots of my life. Back right pins, both on 13 and 17. A high cut 5-iron into 13 and a high cut 4-iron into 17. Birdie both of them and had a 2-shot lead on 18. And a fun moment on 18T, I give AJ, my caddy, at the credit time, but Tampa's got the bunkers down both sides of the fairway. And I knew if I hit 5 wood, it would stay short of all the bunkers. I only needed bogey to win. But driver's been the best club in my bag my whole career, and I was driving it perfect, and AJ knew that. And so I go, well, let's just hit 5 wood, knock it up near the green. We take double out of play. We win this golf tournament. And he looks at me and he goes, with the driver in his hand, he goes, you knocked that driver down the middle of the fairway. And it was awesome. Like, just the belief in me at that moment. And I stepped up and just laced this thing right down the middle. I mean, I had half a sand wedge in. And made par and won the golf tournament. But I always give AJ credit. It was a really good caddying moment. He stepped up and said the right thing to me that I needed to hear. But then it's over. Like, Courtney comes out, gives me the kiss, and you get the trophy, you say the speech, and everyone gets in the car. We drive to Bay Hill, and it's like everyone wants to kick your butt the next week. It was cool. Tuesday, Tiger was playing. He came up to me and congratulated me on the win, and that was cool. And seeing my coach Darren at the time, him running up to me and giving me a hug, that meant a lot. But it's incredible, the feeling, but it's also incredible how fleeting it is. It's the next week everyone's trying to beat your brains in again.
It's kind of what you just referred to of like, how, talk about the team sports and the seasons and how it can be tough to get motivated. Well, in the same sense, after a win, it can be tough too, because you just won, you're celebrating, and then the next week, all right, I got another another tournament I got to worry about.
Yeah.
The very next
Yeah.
week. So
No, it is. It's,
so Travelers now.
yeah.
We've got to run through this. So your second win, 2014 Travelers Championship. Crazy finish. I think it is. Is it still the record for most birdies in a row to close?
Mm-hmm.
So you birdied the last 7 holes, which is nuts. So is there like, is it like a, in the zone moment, or I guess what even happened there? Because I guess what was the status too? Were you totally in the tournament, or were you kind of just an afterthought and then you sort of just worked your way up, or where were you at?
It could be it's a 2-hour discussion that I'll make as short as possible.
Yeah.
It was the most magical most magical week of my life.
Yeah.
Not with any family or kid stuff involved.
Yeah.
But I was struggling. I'd missed 5 cuts in a row going into Travelers. I remember sitting at Pinehurst for the U.S. Open, basically in tears, talking with Pia Nielsen and Lynn Marriott about my, they're sports psychologists, but more kind of life coaches, and they're like second moms to me. They're incredible, incredible people and dear friends of mine. And they came and were coaching me, and they're just kind of saying, how would you teach and coach yourself? And I start going on this tangent. Well, my golf swing should be here. It should be more in front of me. It's too sucked in. It's too shut. It's too whatever. But for 5 minutes, I told them everything that I wanted to do in my golf swing. Right. I said, well, go do it.
Yeah.
You don't need permission from someone else or a coach or something to go do it. And I also had some really cool things happen. Ben Crane spoke some truth to me that week, and some scripture stuff that was like, I needed to hear, as far as gratitude, thankfulness. I had a healthy daughter, Sophie, who's now 11, who was 6 months at the time. And I was just, honestly, I was in a bad place because I was playing bad golf, but it had become too important to me. Like I was holding on to it too tightly. And so at Hartford, I showed up and said, this is my favorite golf course. It reminds me of Chicago golf courses back where I'm from. I'm going to play out of gratitude. I'm going to play for fun. Make the cut by a few shots, but nothing crazy. Actually, I think I shot 73 the first round, had a nice second one to make the cut, I think 68. But I go out Saturday and just play beautifully. I shoot a 64 to kind of get up in the top 10.
Okay.
So, all right, let's have a good week. I was going on family vacation up to Flagstaff the next week with my parents and Courtney's parents, and I was going to take 2 weeks off. So the final round, the start at Hartford's pretty gettable. Like it's a wedge on 1, a wedge on 2, 3 if you had a good drive. I'm 2 over through 7. So I'm back in like 25th place. It's like, gosh, dang it.
Yeah.
And hit a nice shot into 9, double breaker, and we read it perfect, knock it in. Like, all right, that looked good. That felt good.
Yeah.
10, miss the green, chip it to like 6 feet, bury it. 11, pins right, that par 3, and I hit it in the bunker, which is like the only place you can. It's a wedge.
Yeah.
Can only hit it to 15 feet, but I bury that putt. Man, this putter's feeling
pretty
good right now.
Right.
Actually, I brought it with me, the putter, too. It's a good story about that thing. But starting at 13, birdie 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Wow.
Sorry, starting at 12.
Yeah.
12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So birdied the last 7. And all I can say is everything was moving slow, but it was fun. It was easy. We were telling jokes. I wasn't really reading putts. I knew the putts as I was walking in before. I wasn't too worried about where I was aiming the putter. Wasn't too worried about how far back it was going. It's just the putt's there. It's left edge, and you hit it. It went in. And as I got more into the heat and seeing my name go up the leaderboard, I kind of went back to my mini tour days where I was like, we need to keep going. Like, birdie, you need to go. Push, push, push. Stay aggressive.
Okay.
And they kept going in,
happened.
man. It was so crazy. I remember Sergio walking up the hill looking at me. He goes, what the? I'm sorry, bro. Got that one from you.
Yeah, and, because I was reading, I kind of read like the, ESPN sort of like post, event recap, and I think Sergio had a quote in there of like, yeah, I played really good golf. It just wasn't my week type of thing, because it was somebody else's week. So yeah, I've never, again, that's probably a feeling that most people never get. It's just like be in a zone. It sounds like 10 1-putts in a row to finish.
Yeah, birdied 8 of the last 10 in the last 7.
Just crazy.
Which I've never done since.
Yeah.
Probably will never do again. Like
that's
to do it. And we have those rounds. Like I had a magical one at Wisbrock a few months ago where I really had a good look at 59 and just couldn't miss. And it's usually and we were playing for like $20.
Right.
We get those moments where we're at high levels of excellence for what we do and what our professions are, whatever our professions are.
Yeah.
There's days that are easy. There's days that aren't. This day was really easy. It just happened to be on a Sunday where I had a chance to win and was able to do it. So I look back with a ton of gratitude and thankfulness for that week.
Yeah.
And
well, it's cool to get the backstory
really
on that,
fun.
because that's again, that's, I mean, I think statistically, right, in terms of number of birdies, it's the best closing finish to a tournament ever.
Yeah.
So that's, again, another piece of history that we're kind of talking about here. So, all right, I wanted to talk about major championships. We're coming up on major season here as far as the 2025 schedule with Augusta coming up. But did you, throughout your career, obviously you played in all the majors several times. Is there one that you enjoyed the most out of the four?
You never forget your first time in Augusta.
Okay.
You don't. Usually doesn't go too well either.
Yeah.
Because of that moment. I think I was lucky to play in around 30 or so majors so far, and they all have their flavor. They all have their persona. The U.S. Opens are clearly extreme challenges. You know when you step on the first tee, it's a mind game. Where are they trying to mess with us here? Where do I need to leave this? Like, I love that chess part of the game of golf.
Sure.
Similar to PGA championships, but PGAs will try for different golf courses and explore extremes in different ways more than the other majors. But I had some absolute blast on PGA championship golf courses. They almost seem like super elevated PGA Tour events, but with also the greatest fields in golf. Because you have the top 100 in the world at those events, not just at Augusta, you have the top 50 with only a 90-player field. Augusta, everybody obviously knows Augusta. The history, the course is as famous as any player playing in it, which is very unique. And back when I first started, I mean, they'd started lengthening it. The first one I played, I believe, was 2011.
Okay.
But now it is just such a long, demanding golf course where those second shots, when they're 7, 8, 9 irons, when you have a 2-yard window to land it in or something, but now if they're 5 and 6 irons, it's just like so incredibly challenging and wind dependent, weather dependent, what you could get in Augusta early in April. To me, the championships are the Open championships. It's hard to describe because growing up, I'd never felt that way. They were always on really early on TV.
Yeah.
You know, the courses looked yellowish, brownish, running, bumpy. Until you're there and you see it and experience it, and you are in these small towns where it is the center of the golf universe for that week, and you sit at a pub and you're next to someone from South Africa, and you're someone from Asia, and someone from Milwaukee, and someone from Canada, and it's like everyone loves golf in that city for that moment. It is like, it's a very magical,
interesting
place. And so I would say my favorite one of all I ever played was probably Royal Portrush in 2019.
Okay.
And we were up in Northern Ireland, which was the first time, I think, in 63 years that the tournament was in Ireland, or Northern Ireland. To have Shane win it in his home country, sold out every day from Monday on. I had Mike Christensen, my old caddy for me that week. My caddy that was working for me at the time couldn't make it. So we went early, played other golf courses before. It was just like the most joyful 10 days of golf. And I had probably my best, I think I had a 65 or 66 Friday.
Oh, nice.
It was probably my best major round I had there too. But I'd say that was probably my favorite.
Yeah. I appreciate the sort of, you mentioned the gratitude piece and referring to the Travelers Championship. It seems like that kind of, even just hearing you talking about the majors there, it seems like that's kind of carried with you now ever since then. Where talking about the majors, it's like, well, I'm just, there's a gratitude towards the game of golf and the people in it that you've experienced over the years.
Yeah, I really try to live that way. I think it's the only way to be appreciative of the things you have and not just search for things you don't. But, and it's probably just a little bit of pain or just disappointment of what's happened in golf in the last few years, and just hope we can get back to, mostly for the fans' sake, and for the good of the future of the game. We could figure something out to put a product out that is really enjoyable, that everyone wants to see.
Yeah, I know what I'm with you on that for sure. So I wanted to talk just kind of specific. We mentioned a little bit about Tiger, but kind of I guess if you have any, we talked a little bit about memories of the crowd and stuff playing with Tiger for that first time. Do you have any other memories about specifically kind of what it was like to play with Tiger? Maybe memories with Tiger as far as on the golf course or,
Well, I do have a fun story. Yeah, I do have a funny story from that day. As I said, I'm like a kind of a putter nerd and kind of like love the search for the perfect looking putter and all this stuff. And as a Scotty collector and got a bunch of cool lab putters and swag stuff. But clearly the Newport 2 Tiger Head from that era was the gem.
Right.
And so when I'm playing with him, I was like, I got to see this putter. We were walking off Torrey number 11, going back to, 12 green, going back to 13 tee. It was a long walk back to the par 5, and he's just kind of dangling his putt around. I'm like, I got to ask him. And so I'm behind him. I'm like, Tiger, can I see the putter? He's like, yeah, dude. Throws it to me. And I look at this thing. I mean, it's just so chipped, and it almost looked crooked at some parts. Like it just been dug out of the hole so many times. And so in my mind, I'm like, Scotty like refinishes these things, and they look unbelievable. I'm like, Tiger, they can refinish this and make it look mint. And he looks at me like I had 3 heads, and he goes, Kevin, I think I'm doing okay with it the way it is. I was just felt about this small, but it's so funny looking back. Like, of course, to his eye, that's something that you just trust.
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, you got to look down at a piece of equipment that you believe is going to make that 10-footer, whether it's to win your club championship or $10 off your buddies or to win the Masters.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing that matters is the confidence in what you got. Because does it really matter if you got a blade or a mallet or a left hand low or all this? Not really.
Yeah.
You got to be great with what you have.
Yeah.
And it's funny having now a 9-year-old son who's slowly getting into golf, and him, trying different stuff out, and how my perception of that. I'm probably not saying the best example as a dad who has like 250 putters in the basement, but I'm telling him he can pick one, whatever he wants, but he's not getting 5
Sure.
of them. So
It's fascinating. I'm sure like over the years too, as Tiger as that putter has kind of, the dents and chips have added up. Like it's probably not a stark difference for him compared to what you had, where your putter is, finished, it's pristine, right? You're probably keeping it in the best shape possible. Then you look at his and it's kind of an eye opener, right?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there any other, guys on tour that you've kind of, maybe the viewers and listeners wouldn't necessarily think of right away, but a guy that's just been awesome to play with over the years?
I mean, gosh, being out there 18 years, I've been very fortunate to play. I mean, I got to play with Jack Nicklaus at the Memorial one year. I got to play with Tom Watson at the Masters. Played with all the young guys from Jordan to Victor to Ernie Els to Bernard Langer at the Masters. Like I've been able to see pretty much everyone in the last 30, 40 years. Played a lot with Phil, played a lot with Ricky. And it's just fun little photos. You look back at your career, which does go fast, but I'm also I've had a really good time and enjoyed those moments, and being in the heat of battle with some of the best of all time, and seeing what they do and seeing what they don't do, and seeing like when things get turned on in those routines, and how it's just like the laser focus and then letting it go when it's gone. Like that's a part of that as well. And so those are like the small intricacies of the game that the different levels have and some don't. But seeing all those in competition has been really fun.
Yeah.
It's something I'm really thankful for.
Yeah, that's awesome. So another I guess teammate of yours now. So I wanted to ask about Larry Fitzgerald and how that relationship formed. We're a Minnesota-based company, and so that's obviously Larry from the Twin Cities area originally as well. How did that relationship come about? And obviously then can you kind of try to recap sort of the success that you've had so far in the Pebble Beach Pro-Am as a team, and then obviously individually you've had some great success there too. Yes.
So Larry was new to the game of golf probably 10 years ago. Kind of when he was slowing down in football, he found the game. I think Patrick Peterson introduced him to the game.
Okay.
And if you give him a challenge, he's going to go for it. Larry, clearly he's a successful and athletic, high-level individual. And so golf, he took to it pretty quickly. And here in Scottsdale, Whisper Rock is kind of the the men's club, 36 holes. It's the average handicap's like a 6. Like everyone, it's a place to be if you love golf. Really good guys, appreciate the game. It's a great club. And so I used to caddy out there actually when I was on the mini tours, and joined my rookie year. I was fortunate that Greg Trias allowed me to join in 2008. So I've been out there a while. And Larry, as people would see him around at like public golf courses around Phoenix, Greg told him, Larry was trying to get his way into Wisprock, and Greg told him, as soon as you break 90, you're in. But I'm not just letting you in because you're Larry, because I got 100 other guys that could get in based on who they are as well. But so I want you to work at it. So Larry's you give him a challenge, he's going to do it. So the story was, at Gainey Ranch, he made like a 6-footer for 89 and called Greg like from the green pretty much. And so he got into Wisprock. Like I said, Wisprock, there's a lot of good players, so it's intimidating for a lower level player when they get there. So I was always a fan of Larry and what he's done for our community, and he's done for the organization as a Cardinals fan. And so we got to meet each other and played some golf together. And he tells people I was patient with him, would look with the rattlesnakes in the desert for his balls and stuff, and we just hit it off as friends. And so as he got better, and AT&T Pebble Beach, obviously, he'd be a great guy to have, and so they invited him to come, and they wanted to put him, at the big top-level PGA Tour player, which for some reason I wasn't in that list. But Fitz was kind enough to say, I'd really be comfortable playing with Streelman if that's okay. They said Steve John, who's a great friend of mine and a great man, he said, yeah, of course. So me and Larry get paired together. He was at, I think, an 11 handicap at the time, which he truly was. I had been playing well. I think I finished second that week. We go like 3 years in a row, second, first, we win it the next year. Then maybe we missed the cut, and the next year we win it again. So we won it 2 out of 3 years with our first attempt. And it was just magic. It was just so much fun. We ham and egged it perfectly. One of the years, I think I had 24, 25 birdies and an eagle. And he helped me out on like my 3 or 4 bogey holes. And we won by like 7 or 8. And it's just, and I'd say the classiest thing about Larry, so that it's a beautiful, crystal trophy that the amateur gets, but the pro just kind of gets the picture with them. About a month after both victories, this incredibly large box shows up at my front door. Larry had paid to get a replica trophy for me. Of the ones that he got, which were not cheap, I'll say that. But he did it all on his own dime, and I'll never forget that. It's just classy dude, and I'm really proud of those times, just for our friendship and for what now he's now a member at Seminole, and he's close to getting into some pretty big other clubs, and he's just using golf to further
he's
things
an ambassador
in Minnesota.
of the game now.
He's become an ambassador of the game. So to be just a small little part of that, and just as a friend, I'm just proud of him as his buddy. So,
I mean, it's really cool to kind of hear just in your quick little story there about how Larry's interest in the game has clearly progressed and continues to throughout the years. Well, this has been awesome, Kevin. I have one question to wrap up here, and it's kind of just we've heard a lot about your story in terms of, going through the mini tours, going through the Q School, getting to this level now. What advice do you have for somebody that might be watching or listening, and whether they're a high school player now or maybe they're thinking about making this leap to be a professional player and do this and go this route? What advice would you have for them as they embark on that journey?
Be kind to yourself. It's a challenging game that is unrelenting, and there's going to be days that you're going to question what you're doing. I lived in my car pretty much for 5 years. Lived in my mom's car pretty much for 5 years, and staying on friends' couches. And were there times I wanted to quit or thought I should? Of course. There's something inside of me that just said, I want to do the best I can. I want to be the best I can be, to make my parents proud, to make my community proud, to make the people who invested in me or believed in me proud. That there was something about me that wanted to keep going. And so, but the progression has to be slow. That's like we mentioned earlier, you have to win where you're at before you can win somewhere you're not yet. And if you're not dominating here, you can't move up here. So just see how far you can go.
Yeah.
But don't get out of your shoes too quickly, because it's going to be discouraging to the point where, especially with kids, they're not going to do it anymore when they see someone kicking their butt at it.
Right.
And so I think that's a very important part of the progression of competitive golf.
Yeah.
And also there's going to be a round, maybe 9 holes, maybe 3 holes, where you're going to have to do something crazy. Like, you're going to have to go for it.
Yeah.
That's what I learned in Puerto Rico, and I wouldn't have been able. I don't think I'd be a 2-time winner on the PGA Tour, maybe even a 1-time winner on the PGA, if I hadn't gone through the failure of understanding the mental outlook. I was probably playing better golf in Puerto Rico than I was in Tampa, but my mental mindset was whole nother level in Tampa than it was in Puerto Rico, and that's why I won, and that's why I finished 4th. And so, yes, we got to have these pretty swings on Instagram, and now they're learning to shallow and all this, and get steep with chipping and all. Like, I get it. When it comes to something that you have to get up and down to win a championship, you have to practice in a way to replicate that. You have to be nervous. I'm talking the first time at Augusta. I'm talking about. I was more concerned of putting the tee in the ground and getting the ball to stay on top of the tee. That's how nervous you are. So you're thinking you can just, oh, is my wrist flat or am I a little laid off? It's like, no, I'm trying to get the tee in the ground. And I've done this for 20 years at this point. So that's what you have to learn as you continue. And that, like I said, that progression's slow. But keep getting nervous, keep playing for things that are important, and keep getting uncomfortable in situations, and just see what you got.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, Kevin, this has been great. We appreciate you swinging by today and
love being here,
telling some really cool stories. It's been awesome. We wish you the best of luck too, in the whatever's left of the PGA Tour career. I know you got plenty left in the tank, and obviously with Champions Tour as well. It's been awesome to watch you this far.
Thank you,
So that was Kevin Streelman down in our Scottsdale store once again, speaking with Drew. And what a cool story! I mean, that second PGA Tour win of his, where he finished with 7 straight birdies. I mean, that's just unbelievable golf. Something that I don't know if you'll ever see that again. It's pretty crazy to think about. I mean, you know, 4 or 5 birdies is good enough, and then you figure in 2 more, just crazy. And then I loved the part of when he was playing at Torrey Pines with Tiger, and you'd think like you'd be super nervous and maybe worried about shanking a driver, and he kind of had the opposite reaction where he just got super amped up and just piped. What he said was probably the longest drive of his career right down the pipe. So pretty cool story there. So we got more content with Kevin coming up, so be on the lookout for that in the coming weeks. But let's get right into this week's first major. Drew and I are going to we did it a couple weeks ago for the players. We're bringing it back this week for the Masters. We're going to pick our lineups for the year's first major. We're using the Masters.com's formula for picking those teams. So each of us get 5 players, and then we will just go with whoever wins on Masters.com's wins. And let's see who Drew and I each came away with. All right, now joining the show remotely, a man dedicated to his craft, Mr. Drew Mahold. Drew, are you ready for some Masters pick'ems?
Of course. That's the best part about the Masters, right? Is trying to pick who's going to win the darn thing. So yeah, let's get to it.
Yeah, so here's kind of the format we're going to do. We're going to use the Masters.com competition, so you get to choose, 1 former champ, 1 American, 1 international, 1 first-timer, and 1 wild card. Rules are we cannot pick the same player, so if you pick Scotty Scheffler, doesn't matter any category, I cannot pick Scotty Scheffler. So once a player is picked, he is gone. And then we will go and we're going to do a true snake draft this time, so if you're familiar. So one of us will pick, then it'll go back-to-back for someone, and we'll alternate. And then we're also going to just kind of let each person start with a new category. So if you start with past champs, then when it's my turn, I'll get to pick for my second pick, I'll get to pick the next category. So make sense? All right, so there are the rules, Drew. So since you won the players pick'em a few weeks ago, I'll let you have the honors to pick the first category and the first player.
I like that. The honor. That seems fitting, right, for a tournament of this magnitude. I'm going to go with the easy pick. You have to go. I'm going to go with Scotty Scheffler, and I'm actually going to use the past champs category for that. So my number one pick, Scotty Scheffler, and I'm going to use him in the past champs category.
All right, so I'll stay in that category. We're not going to switch categories once that person picks it. So I'm going to go with the man who handed the green jacket to Scotty Scheffler last year, Jon Rahm. Coming in, pretty much finishing top 10 every live event. Has historically played pretty well at Augusta. Last year struggled, but I think he's due for a bounce back. So you have Scotty Scheffler. I have Jon Rahm for past champs. I'm going to go next to the internationals, and I'm going to go with guy who finished runner-up last year, Mr. Ludwig Aubert, for my pick of that category.
That's a good one. That's who I was eyeing for internationals. So now to confirm, I'm staying in the international category for my pick now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see. A lot of good options here. But I'm going to go with my guy, the Irishman. He's had some really good finishes at Augusta before, striking it well right now. Shane Lowry. I think he's going to have a solid tournament this year. He's trending upwards. Had some really good past finishes at Augusta. This is his week.
All right, I like it. So
And
now you get to pick
now
the next
then
category.
Yeah, so we're wrapping back around. I'm going to go to the first timers category. And I want to go, in this one I had a particular player, and it was, here we go. It is going to be Aaron Rai. That seems like he's a player that seems to kind of elevate himself in some of these bigger events with stronger fields. So as a first timer, this is maybe a little off the wall, but I'm going to go with Aaron Rai.
All right, I like it. This might be the toughest category to pick from, just because it's, if you're making your first appearance, you obviously haven't been a top 50 player in the world recently. Sometimes you're just an amateur. So I'm going to go with Taylor Pendrith, Canadian. And the only reason is at Augusta, strokes gained tee to green is pretty much vital to win there. You got to be able to, hit it far, hit it in the fairway, but so you can set yourself up to hit it into these very small areas of greens. He ranks in the top 25 on the PGA Tour in strokes gained tee to green. He struggles a little bit on the putting green, so that's the only place where I'm a little nervous, but overall I think he can put himself in good enough shape there to limit the damage.
Jeez, you brought the research and the stats here, Sean. I wasn't ready for that. Guys, prepared.
Well, you got to come prepared. All right, so we have either wild card or United States. So I'm going to go wild card here just because it gives me more options, and I'm going to go with the guy that I think there's a lot of people that really want him to win it, so that way he can become one of those. It's the 7th person to win the career Grand Slam. I'm going to go with Rory McIlroy. I know he hasn't played the greatest at Augusta always, but he hasn't been in better form coming into this tournament as he has this year. He's got 2 wins, including one at the Players. And who wouldn't want to see him walk away with a green jacket to kind of, etch himself in, the annals of golf. So
that's a good one. I was going to try and sneak back around and get Rory there. I probably should have used a previous, maybe the international category or something. But you know what? It is what it is. That's a good pick. Rory and Scotty on one team would have been a little unfair, I think. So
yeah, I think you got those 2 on your Players team. So
I did. So I'm sticking with the wild card category. I'm going to go with another guy who was in contention last year, had a really good run, and he's been playing lights out this year. I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa. In terms of, if we want to bring numbers into this, I mean, he's one of the best approach players and has been since he entered the PGA Tour professional status, and continues to record really good finishes at Augusta. So I'm going to go Colin Morikawa for my wild card spot there.
Okay, I like it. And then, it leaves us with one more category. It's the Americans. So a lot of options out there. And Drew, you have the first pick in this one.
Yeah. So I got it. I thought about. I hesitated for a little bit, but I'm still going to go with my guy Brooks Koepka. He I mean, the major track record speaks for itself. And I still think he's still got that major magic in him. I'm not one to use live performances much as sort of support for picking a player or thinking a guy's got a good chance. I'm not exactly sure what live events mean right now, but the guy shows up for majors. And so I think he's going to do that again this week. He's my last pick in the American category.
All right. Yeah, I like Brooks. I was definitely thinking of taking him. Thought maybe you were going to take the guy that I'm going to take. And now this is a guy who has actually struggled a lot at Augusta, but last year seemingly found his game there. He played great in most of the majors last year, all besides the Open, including winning the U.S. Open. I'm going to go with the people's champ, Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, that was the other consideration I had was Bryson. The guy, the Augusta performances haven't been awesome in the past for him, but to your point, I think he may have figured something out last year. So would not surprise me if he ended up winning the green jacket this year.
Yeah, so we'll see. So, Drew, why don't you, if you got the teams right there, just go through each of our rosters quick.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with mine, and I'll go in order of the selections too, just so that people can follow. So in the past champs category, I went with Scotty Scheffler. Then I went to Shane Lowry in the international category. Coming back around, then also went with Aaron Rai as the first-timer category. Followed that up with Colin Morikawa in the wild card spot and Brooks Koepka in the American category. And then Sean's team is John Rahm with the past champion, Ludwig Aubert in the international crew. That's probably the number one, one of those high-flying big names that people are looking for this year. Taylor Pendrith in the first-timer category. Rory McIlroy is a wild card. And then lastly, he went with Bryson DeChambeau in the Americans category. So I think we got 10 really good golfers between the two of us here.
Yeah, I think we got some good picks. I'd say we probably have, for sure, 8 of the top 10 favorites, I would imagine. They're up there. So should be a good tournament. Looking forward to it. And for those listening or watching on the YouTube channel, drop in the comments your lineup and see if you can beat Drew or my lineups, and or just let us know who you think's going to win between the two of us.
Yeah, I also encourage all the viewers and listeners also send in those comments, but also enjoy watching what is for us the most fun tournament of the year. It's going to be a blast, and maybe one of us has the winner in our lineup here.
So yeah, Drew, let's hope that we have a winner within our 10 picks. And like we've mentioned before, drop your picks in. Let us know whose picks you like, whose you don't. We'd love to hear it. Obviously, enjoy the Masters. It's one of the best weeks, if not the best week of the golf season. And of course, keep your eyes out on our social channels for some cool opportunities for some cool gear. And Drew, once again, thanks for dialing in this week.
Of course. Thanks, Sean. And we'll see everybody next episode. Subscribe wherever you need to subscribe.
Yeah, so there are me and Drew's picks. And like we said, drop in the comments, who you were picking for your lineup, and let's just see who comes out on top among all of us. And should be a great tournament. Obviously, who doesn't love just the the vibes at Augusta, the green jacket, the tradition. It's one of the best weeks of the year, and we can't wait to sit on our couch and watch it all weekend long. Coming up on the Second Swing YouTube channel, on Thursday, we'll have a Live at Lunch with Tyler Fitzel. We're going to be talking about the clubs being used and in play at Augusta National. Him and Drew will be talking about that. Live at Lunch Thursday at 1 p.m. Central on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, make sure to hop on the chat and ask them away, and Tyler and Drew will answer any questions that you have. Also, be on the lookout for our Tour Truck series. We spent some time traveling with the PGA Tour down to see what the pros do when they get to their tour truck, how the clubs are built, the specs they like, and we really do a deep dive into that with not only the club builders, but then you also get to hear from some pros as well. So really cool stuff lying ahead. And then on the Second Swing side, make sure you check out our best value club selection. We have plenty of great options within our used inventory, and our best value are kind of our best of the best. They're usually, a generation or two old clubs. They're in, above average to mint condition, really good shape, and they're going for really good prices. So make sure you check that out. Anything from Cobra Dark Speed, Srixon Mark II irons, Mizuno JPX 923 Forge and Tour irons. So plenty of options out there for pretty much every golfer. So make sure you give those a look. And another shout out here on the YouTube side. Make sure you check out our Gold Victory putters from Scotty Cameron video. A really cool and unique collection of putters that were traded into us from a collector. You get to kind of hear the story behind the collection, the story behind the build of some of these putters. And, this is kind of how Scotty Cameron, right when he was kind of making a name for himself in the late 90s, he came up with these putters. So really interesting story. And, of course, Tiger Woods just happened to play Scotty Cameron putters during, his most dominant run. So you get a nice inside look at the design that went into Tiger's putter and just, how much he meant to that company. And so really cool stuff. So make sure you check that out. And also, as always, make sure to, hit that subscribe button to follow us here on YouTube and, follow us on your favorite podcast platform where you can listen to us there as well. And that'll wrap up today's show. So enjoy Masters Week, and we'll see you back here next week.